An important and a little bit tricky concept to understand is functions. So here we have three functions. We use three functions in this code: input, int, and print. Each function execute a chunk of code. So the computer, when they see a function usage of function, they will find the corresponding code and execute it. And these three are known as the built-in functions. That means the code that they correspond to have already been written and included in the environment, so then you can directly use them. You don't need to define them. You don't need to tell computer what this function means. The Python language already defined it. The computer already knows. And a function can take arguments. So here we have the input function doesn't take any argument at all. So this things inside parentheses is empty. That means the input function doesn't take any argument. The int function takes one argument, which is this input. This what we call this is application of this function input, and the print function takes one argument n. And there are also functions that take more than one argument. In fact, the print can take more than one argument. If you want to print multiple things, you can include them, and they are just need to be separated by commas. So the three built-in functions that we use in the code are these. So what input does, it will read one line of input, and the line will be returned as a string. That is the value of this function. And the int function takes one argument. It will evaluate the argument and get a value, and then it will convert that value to an integer. So oftentimes this will be a string value, and we just convert that string into an integer. And print take one or more expressions as argument. It will evaluate this argument and then output the results. And we have introduced variables, literals, operators, functions, and also we are you should be familiar with the parentheses. And these can be used to form expressions. So all these highlighted part are expressions, and they actually contain sub-expressions. For example, 2 times n is the expression using the multiplication operator. And then this 2 times n minus 1 is the expression, and adding parentheses, that's still an expression. Then multiply with n, multiply another expression, that's still an expression. So this input with this parenthesis follow it. So this is a function call, calling the function input. That's the expression. And then apply the int function to the result of that. That's that's also an expression. So using these as a sub expression. And every expression will be evaluated to a value. So I want to emphasize this notion of function applications. Function application will be an expression, and it takes the form of a function name, so which will be this string, this int here, input here, followed by a pair of matching parentheses. So for example, for int, it's these parentheses and this one, these two are matching. And inside, it will be either nothing, in the case of input, it's nothing, or one expression. So the int here have this int function application has one argument, one expression as its argument. The print also have one expression as its argument. It can also have two or more expressions separated by comma. So for example, this is a code that one can write. Print n, and this hexagonal number. So the last important programming concept that's needed to understand this code is assignment statement. So first, the program consists of a statement. So these particular program have 3 statements. And the first 2 are assignment statement. The last one is just an expression. An expression by itself can also be a statement. So we just evaluate that expression. In this case, because the expression is a function call, we will actually execute the code associated with the function, which will result in something being printed out in this case. So assignment statement will take the form variable equal expression. So even though this is equal sign may look familiar because we see that in math, we use that in equations, but the use of this equality sign in programming is different. So in math, this highlighted part is an equation with the two solutions, and you can think about what are the two solutions. And in programming, this is not an equation, because if you think about the equation, it doesn't quite well, I guess this equation actually has a solution, but I actually can write an assignment statement that looks like an equation without a solution. For example, n equals n plus 1, which is a perfectly fine assignment statement, but it's meaningless as math. So the equal is really different from equality in math. So these describe a series of actions. It's kind of a recipe of actions. So more specifically, what happens when the computer sees this assignment statement is it will first evaluate the expression on the right-hand side of this assignment statement. So because this expression actually use n, we will use whatever value n has in here. Whatever value n has, then we use that to evaluate this expression. We get a value, and then we will store the resulting value back into n. So after the execution of this statement, the value of n is likely to change. We're going to see this soon. And I want to emphasize that the variable name must be on the left side. So because this is not equality, left and right actually matters. So m equals n versus n equals m are two very different assignment statements. So another thing about the syntactic convention is first, whether a letter is uppercase or lowercase matters. So they're always different. So when you use the built-in function, make sure you use the right case. And similarly, if you have a variable named, say, goodvar, this will different from one named goodvar. So you have to make sure you use a consistent uppercase, lowercase for your variable names. And another syntactic convention is about white space. So in Python, the white space in the beginning of a line actually have some important meaning. So for now, we'll just start every line at the very beginning. And in the next example problem, we're going to see cases where we need to add some white space in the beginning of the line. But after the beginning of the line, white space, the number of white space does not matter anymore. So like for example here, using any number of white space have no difference. So all these are equivalent. So then how to use them depends really on how you like your code to look. So which way you think looks better. Okay, so finally we're able to understand these 3 lines of code here. So I listed this 3 lines of code. So these are the English explanations of what the code actually do. So for the first line, the first thing that happens is the input function is being called. Because in order to evaluate the int function, we have to have a value for here. So we have to evaluate the input function first. So these will read one line of input and return the result as a string. And then we invoke the int function using this string value as an argument. So what happens is that string got converted into an integer value. And then because this is assignment statement, that integer value will be stored in the variable n. So for example, if the input have a single line with a 2, then after the execution of this line, n store the value, integer value 2. So for the second line, we first evaluated this expression 2 times m, and we use the current value of n to evaluate it. So because the current value is 2, then we get, this is 2 times 2 minus 1, then times 2, so we get 6. And after that, we store the resulting integer value back into n. So at this point, n will store the integer value of 6. So the value of n changes after the execution of this line, because this is assignment statement that assign the value to n. So the last line we first evaluate the expression n, which is just 6, and then we use that as an argument to pass that value 6 to the function print, and then the print will write out the 6